Giovanni, welcome back. Thanks for being here.
Howdy. Good to see you again. Apologize for not being in studio last week, but life happens, right?
We missed you, man.
I'm sure y'all did. So unless you're living under a rock, I mean, we know all the hoo-ha that's going on with Facebook right now, at least in my world. And, you know, it's funny because I love to kind of watch the C-SPAN. I nerd out on kind of watching, you know, the government hearings and things like that. But this especially kind of hit all cylinders for me because it was, you know, because it's obviously it's Facebook, it's privacy, it's marketing, it's advertising, it's data, you know, it's AI, it's everything rolled into one. It's like the Super Bowl for a guy like me. And I guess this is a dirty little secret of mine working in social media for a living and being a digital strategist. I personally deleted my Facebook and Instagram account about 4.5 years ago. Mainly because I had with the industry that I'm working in, I knew what they were doing with data, and I knew how much they were collecting with data and how manipulative it could be, and I less so about the fact that they were just collecting data. My biggest concern was whenever there was a crisis about Facebook, it was the response from the company that came from them, and the lack of empathy for why people were so concerned about the mishandling of the data, and most importantly, the fact that they would, you know, yet again get their hand caught in the cookie jar. They would go and do something, they'd get their hand smacked, and then 6 months later there'd be another issue that was a little bit different than the first one, and, you know, a half-hearted, you know, maybe pseudo apology, and hey, we're not going to do that again, and deflection and move on, right? So now, you know, with Cambridge Analytica, you know, ironically, something that actually happened 2 to 3 years ago that's coming to the surface now, they're finally getting their due. And while I love social media, I love marketing, I love creating great brands for folks online and offline, this is kind of a fun thing for me to watch because I think this is an example of a company that has completely misused the position that our society has put them in, right? So what are we looking at for Facebook? I mean, the hearings themselves, I think by and large, Zuckerberg came out unscathed. There were a few nice moments where some of the folks put him a little bit on the hot, more like a warm seat. Yeah. I mean, there wasn't any super intense grilling, and the irony. And I was, you know, we're talking to Fish here, you know, the producer here before the show. You know, the irony here is that politically, I am aligned with a lot of the folks that were questioning Zuckerberg on the end of the spectrum that I typically don't vote for because for me it's a personal data and privacy issue type of thing. So
you know why he's never going to go down, right?
Because he's donating so much stuff to all their campaigns, and we had
no.
Why is that?
It's not a money thing; it's a power thing. He's not going down because the government's using all that information for what they need it for.
Well, and I would say that the data and the company probably isn't going down. And here's the thing: again, for me, it's not about the collection. It is about because we've had, I mean, long before Facebook, you had grocery stores starting to collect data about you. You had Equifax and Experian and all these companies collecting this enormous amounts of data. Mm-hmm. We're talking about, you know, decades of data-driven marketing entities that would market to you through snail mail based upon voting records and credit stuff. So the whole idea that the data is out there is not new. The issue is whether or not the ordinary citizens, and they're doing it in Europe now, and I'm no fan of European government, but whether or not ordinary citizens have gotten to a point to where we've gone past the exhaustion and we're now moving to action saying, you know what, I don't like the fact that I can be on my phone and then turn around and go to my desktop and something I was doing on my phone shows up on my desktop. Now, as a marketer, I might argue, well, that's a great experience for you. But for the vast majority of the population, that's kind of creepy, right?
Yeah.
Wait till that moves into your refrigerator. Wait till it moves into your car. Wait till it moves into, you know, your...
It's already there, isn't it?
To some extent, the technology is there. They're not implementing it yet.
Are you sure?
On things like Internet of Things devices, they're not quite there. And an example of how that might happen, You might walk into your house and without you triggering any manual process and without you setting up an automated process, if you pull into your driveway and God forbid you're listening to Hootie and the Blowfish, you have a whole bunch of issues besides that. But if you drive up and you're listening to Hootie and the Blowfish and you walk in your house and that song picks up from where it left off and you didn't ask any automated system to do that,
right,
that's going to be a level that some folks think's neat and kind of cool, but the level of integration and invasion someone would have to have into your entire life to be able to make that device that is disconnected from your home then fire off a stereo system, that's something that we need to consider whether or not we want our electronic devices to be following us around and being that self-aware.
Well, they say that you can turn it off. I don't see any stopping that continuous stream of monitoring every human on Earth that is near any electronic device. I don't see that they're going to let that treasure trove go away. You may be able to think that, okay, well, he can turn the music off, but I'm still watching. This is far more. It's far deeper than just the radio. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sharing a lot more than I should. The conspiracy theorist in me agrees 10,000% with you.
Okay.
The programmer in me knows very well that when we air quotes delete stuff, stuff isn't always deleted.
Right.
Because to your exact point, we need things to help our systems function well, right? And one thing that came up with that was interesting in the hearings was that one of the senators asked Zuckerberg directly, "Are you monitoring the microphones on people's phones and devices?" And he flat out said no. He didn't dodge. He didn't do anything. And I don't believe they are. Here's the thing. They have such deep roots inside of everything about you digitally. The fact that we think that they're listening to us, and I honestly believe that they're not, that's the scary thing. They don't need to be listening to our conversations. And number one, the technology to listen to that and for artificial intelligence to correctly convert that into usable data right now, it's about 80% there. That 20% that's incorrect is a huge number that they can't implement that until they fix maybe 18% of that 20%, because a 20% failure rate causes something to look completely ridiculously bad.
Well, I agree with you 100%. We've got to close, but you're going to stick around for the show.
Yeah.
Right? We have Rory Cotaya on the show in a minute, but one of the things I did want to mention, I watched the interviews, and one of the things that I saw, one of the senators asked Mark, he said, "Hey, was your information included in the stuff that was misused?" And he paused. And you could see just the look in his eye like, yes. Like, I have to say yes.
Yeah. And that was some of the fun part. The times that he got flush, and it's funny because they were softball questions, and it's amazing how easily he got flushed at some of the questions because he's a guy that since he was 18, nobody's questioned him.
So that's the vetting period for 2040 when he runs, right?
Just dear kidding. God.
All right, Giovanni.
Save me.
Giovanni Gallucci, Gallucci.net. We'll be right back on the other side of this break with Rory Cotaya, CEO of Infuse. You've been listening to CEO Money with Michael Yorba. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be right back.